Welcome to Café Anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It's FF episode 2922, 2922, and Mike Matthews here at Café Anyway, somewhere in podCastro Valley, the last place on earth.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It's Mike Matthews here at this wonderful little space that we have, that we go to. And we have some coffee, maybe root beer, maybe some water. You decide what you like to drink here at Café Anyway. We've got some things to eat. Not that much of a... Well, basically, we took everything from Chipotle that has disease in
Mike's Daily Podcast.
All the stuff with norovirus and everything, there's a big buffet. The norovirus Chipotle buffet.
Mike's
Go help yourself.
Daily
I would strongly
Podcast.
advise you to talk to your doctor beforehand. But yes, we're here at Café Anyway. I was just watching a video on YouTube. It's the Weird Food History channel, I think is what it's called. Weird Food History. And it's got this great announcer guy, very droll, very dry. And he tells and the editing's fantastic. And they were talking all about how Chipotle rose to success, but then got hit with all those different E. coli and all those other outbreak after outbreak that caused them all kinds of problems. So maybe not want to go to Chipotle anymore, but it was a good idea while it lasted. The thing is, here in the Bay Area, we've got so many mom and pop run taquerias that do basically the same thing. And hopefully not give you an outbreak of some horrible disease. Hopefully they're watching what they're doing. But there's some very authentic, delicious, locally run places, not these big Goliath conglomerate corporations running stuff. That, Chipotle at one time, the owner, very smart guy. He's actually from Colorado, this white guy from Colorado who at some point approached McDonald's, who invested in Chipotle, then sold their half for like $1 billion.
And here's today's podcast picture.
But basically educated the guy on all the stuff he needed to know to keep growing Chipotle. And the podcast picture is not of Chipotle, but of a cool little street there in West Alameda. There's a beer company, a brewing company. You can go there and get beer there in their tasting room. A friend of mine works there. But they're growing very well these days. They're doing a lot of spreading out and opening up new stores and whatnot. So, but we were over there visiting him, and it was a cool night. Basil and I walked around there at one point long ago. The late great Basil the boxer there. But see that picture at mikesdailypodcast.com. The last picture was of a cool car, and I didn't mention this on the last podcast, in Niles. I was in Niles recently, and on a Friday night, wow, it's hopping. And there's some cool cars that park at this old gas station that's no longer a gas station. I think they work on classic cars there. And they were doing like a taco tortilla maker person making burritos and stuff there. And that was a cool picture. You can see that at mikesdailypodcast.com as well there. So there's somebody you heard on a recent podcast. I was talking about a guy who was going through something that was not so grand.
Life grand.
I'm hoping your life is grand. This guy's life was not so grand because his dog is having the same issue that the late great Basil the boxer had, the degenerative myelopathy where the back legs don't work anymore. And we talked to him for a while, and the dog has a lot of energy and life left in her. Her name is Sam. So I went home and I got all of Basil's old harnesses that I used to use to help him walk, because his front legs were fine. It was just the back legs wouldn't work. So I would hold him up. It was like I was carrying a suitcase, but I was carrying the back of my dog. And we used to walk around all over the place. He did really well for about a year. And I was telling him, try this with Sam. And he did it. And Sam was up and walking. and had all this energy, and he was floored. He said, "Thank you, Mike. You've given me hope." And I'm like, "Hey, this is a gift from Basil, the late great Basil is giving you his old tools
What's the cliche of the week?
that used to help him walk."
What's the cliche of the week?
So it's good to,
What's the cliche of the week?
if you've got little tricks and stuff that you've learned
What's the cliche of the week?
that can help people through a tough time, because nobody was helping them. Nobody helped me. There was very limited access and information we can get on the internet. So there you go. Go and help people. It sounds cliche, but it's good if you pay it forward. What's a cliche of the week? If you have an idea, if you have helpful information, you should try and pass it along. If they listen. That's the whole other thing, is if they listen. Hopefully they listen to you so they don't make the same mistakes you did. I guess that's the whole thing about parenting, isn't it? You're trying to teach your kids to teach your children well and all that so that they don't make the mistakes you do. Okay. By the way, there is a video now to this particular podcast that you can find on Facebook if you go to mikesdailypodcast.com and click on the Facebook link, and you will see this bizarre moonscape going on above my head. See it at mikesdailypodcast.com. It should be up there for the next 30 days. All right. What? Bitcoin? Well, there was a little bit of news random about Bitcoin this week. Now, I heard there was all this excitement and whatnot when Bitcoin could be traded on the stock market, part of ETFs, exchange-traded funds. People were buying that up. And then suddenly the Bitcoin market took a dive, and a lot of people sold their ETFs. Well, this article from the people over at cointelegraph.com, so they do a little bit of specific reporting on this type of thing. As we go outside of Café Anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth, in the land of Ameritopica. They say another sign of retail traders entering the crypto markets is the increase in the download of Coinbase's official app on the Apple App Store. September 28th, the app was the 385th most downloaded app, which is way above the 500th place. And
Mike's scavenger hunt.
And a dynamic which corresponds to the bear markets that apparently are happening with Bitcoin, according to this article, as I am looking at these interesting articles on my scavenger hunt. It also says here the United States-based spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds witnessed inflows of over $1 billion recently, the largest weekly flow since earlier this year. Yeah, it was around July 15th and 19th that things got really hot for a while. And Bitcoin has failed to run up following the breakout above $65,000, but a positive sign is that the bulls have not given up much ground. This suggests that the buyers are holding on to their positions as they expect the up move
for your entertainment
to extend further.
The one, the only, Mike Matthews.
So there you go, that very turbulent world of Bitcoin. And what about the turbulent world of tractors? John Deere had to recall nearly 165,000 utility tractors because of a brake defect. It's the largest recall they've had in 20 years. The front bell crank in the brake linkage might fail and cause the tractor to lose its braking ability, which might cause a crash. The John Deere models are the 1023E, the 1025R, and the 2025R. They are compact utility tractors. And John Deere said owners immediately should cease using the recalled tractors and contact an authorized John Deere dealer to schedule a time to bring their recalled tractors in.
The Mike tip.
For a free repair. That is my Mike tip to you, a free repair. So that is all from the folks there at UPI News. And that is interesting. John Deere, the engineer, I wonder if he has a tractor. Because that would fit, wouldn't it? Eggs. Now, we made there was recently, Food Network posted on their channel some cool egg recipes that they had pulled from all these TikTok videos and things. And one of them was making an egg sandwich in a pan, like a super easy way to do it, where you scramble the eggs, you put them in the pan, then you put the 2 slices of bread on top of that and mix it all with the egg. And then you basically flip the whole egg and bread together like a French toast. And then you cook it on the other side for a while, and then you do this folding thing where it all folds up into a sandwich.
Wow, shuts, wow.
Wow, shuts, wow. Well, egg prices are on the rise again, linked to bird flu's impact on the supply chain. This from the people at WCMH Columbus. I recently did a commercial for a radio station in Columbus, Ohio. I don't know if they're going to use it. I guess I threw my voice as an audition into the audition hat. The rising price of eggs in the last year has been linked to bird flu impact on the supply chain, and the eggs price tag has gone up by almost 30% in the last 12 months. The average price for a dozen large eggs was $3.20. The spikes in prices occurred in part because of the high demand for the product, but also due to the bird flu outbreak of chicken farms. This is at chicken farms in Colorado, and this was in July. It all comes back to Colorado, like Chipotle and their outbreaks. Yikes.
The Newsbleed section.
And then another interesting piece of news here in the Newsbleed section is that U.S. retailers are bracing for a potential pain from the longshoremen strike. And this is from Market Watch and the Associated Press. It's threatening to close ports on the East and Gulf Coast, and there is the company, the National Tree Company, like many businesses, is counting on shipments that are en route from Asia but won't reach their ports before an expected strike by longshoremen. The company, based in New Jersey, is an importer of artificial Christmas trees and other holiday decorations. So what they're saying is other businesses face the same predicament with goods that could be stranded at sea if 45,000 members of the International Longshoremen's Association make good on their threat to strike. They could shut down 36 ports from Maine to Texas that handle about half the goods shipped into and out of the United States. The West Coast dock workers, however, belong to a different union, and they aren't involved in the strike. So that's also an interesting thing happening.
Well, I like
The whiny white man wine list.
So I hear a lot of whining from white men about, the end of the world is going to happen. You've got Trump saying, if you elect Kamala, it's going to be World War III. It's not going to be nice. He had to add that it's not going to be nice, even though we know that World War III probably would not be nice. But he didn't have to point that out. Anyway, Café Anyway. There are a lot of people that predict the end of the world, a lot of alarmists, people that are making money off of your fear, like Geoengineering Watch. Now, this was a radio show that I became familiar with when the show was airing on one of the radio stations that I worked for, and the guy that runs it, all he does is, the whole show is him. He's just one headline after another, kind of like what I'm doing on this show, but every headline was the bell tolls for you. It's countdown to Armageddon any second now. And so I listened to that show, a couple months back, and at that point, I thought the end of the world would have happened, a couple months back, the way he was talking. But we're still here.
It's a nightmare of a show.
It is a nightmare of a show. Don't listen to it is my suggestion to you. But, this show you should listen to. But what was interesting, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, which if you read their About section, they eliminate excessive regulation. They've been doing this for 40 years. And about unleashing human potential. Now, eliminating excessive regulation is kind of a right-wing thing. I have noticed I lived in a right-wing state for 2 years, and I noticed, hey, not so many regulations. You can actually get some things done. But then there were a lot of things that maybe should have been regulated because there was pollution in places and trash and stuff was, nobody was getting fined for stupid things that they were doing. So it depends, I guess, in what field you're in. But they brought up something interesting.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us here on this show. This is great.
It's great that you're joining me on this show. So it's called the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and they have an article that you can go to at their website, cei.org, that is called Wrong Again, 50 Years of Failed how would you say that? Ecopocalyptic. So it's a play on apocalyptic. Ecopocalyptic predictions. Because I was thinking the other day about how so many people over the years have predicted the end of the world, yet you and I are still here. So someone was wrong somewhere along the way. And yet at the time, they're very convincing. And if you're not watching them, there are people telling you about them, going, oh, wow, you should have listened to this guy. He said blah, 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 oceans rising, blah, blah, blah. We're all going to be dead in 5 years. I remember hearing that a lot as a kid. So several 5 years have come and gone since I was a kid, a couple decades. So they were wrong. And it says here in an interesting article, and then we'll hear from Sarah Huckabee. Isn't this exciting how I set this up? Modern doomsdayers, they're called doomsayers. Modern doomsayers have been predicting climate and environmental disasters since the 1960s. They continue to do so today. Oh, and this says, thanks go to Tony Heller, who first collected many of these news clips and posted them on realclimatescience.com. Is that realclimatescience.com? We'll just go with it. Or Real Climate Science. Look that up, I guess. None of the apocalyptic predictions with due dates as of today have come true. What follows is a collection of notably wild predictions from notable people in government and science. And you know what? They get the spotlight. They get the spotlight when they predict the end of the world. Everyone's, oh, what? What are they saying? Ooh, clicks. Time for clicks. More than merely spotlighting the failed predictions, this collection shows that the makers of failed apocalyptic predictions often are individuals holding respected positions in government and science. While such predictions have been and continue to be enthusiastically reported by a media eager for sensational headlines, and that's what it all comes down to. You know, all you people on the right wing that are constantly screaming about the big corporate media, the left-wing media, the drive-by media, the legacy media, the lamestream media, all of that. The one thing I agree with you on is that the media is looking for sensational headlines because that's the money shot. They're trying to make money off of your fear. They've always done that. Just like some politicians. Just like almost all politicians. And quite a few pastors, for that matter, in churches are working off of your fear that you've got to contribute more money to the offering plate to save your soul or to save the country or the planet or whatever it is. So here are some of the... this is a great sentence here. While such predictions have been and continue to be enthusiastically reported by a media eager for sensational headlines, the failures are typically not revisited. For example, one that they list here is everyone will disappear in a cloud of blue steam by 1989. This was a prediction in 1969. The New York Times said foe of pollution sees lack of time, asserts environmental ills outrun public concern. This by Robert Reinhold. And this actually starts in Palo Alto, California. This is from 1969, so I was alive for 1 year. It says the trouble with almost all environmental problems, the population, says Paul R. Ehrlich, the population biologist, is that by the time we have enough evidence to convince people, you're dead. Wow. While Dr. Ehrlich is gathering that evidence in his laboratory at Stanford University, not too far away from us here in Podcastro Valley, he is wasting no time trying to convince people that drastic action is needed to head off what he foresees as a catastrophic explosion fueled by runaway population growth, a limited world food supply, and contamination of the planet by man. He says we must realize that unless we are extremely lucky, everybody will disappear in a cloud of blue steam in 20 years. So did we all disappear in a cloud of blue steam in 1989? No, don't think so. And he was only 37 back then. He says the situation is going to get continuously worse unless we change our behavior. And I've heard a lot about this guy and about the population explosion and that there was going to be no food left for us and that the earth was just going to turn into some kind of dystopic, horrendous world. And yes, in some countries, it's bad and the poor have no food and no resources and they're living under tarps. So yes, it's not all roses and blue skies, but it's not as bad as what they were predicting, and we didn't go up in blue steam. So apparently Dr. Ehrlich made a lot of predictions that the news was jumping on right away. Oh, and let's see, the new Ice Age predictions back in 1971, they were saying that was on its way real soon. Let's see, and this was from the people over at the Washington Post. U.S. scientist sees new ice age coming. This was a Dr. S.I. Razul of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and Columbia University. He says in the next 50 years, the fine dust man constantly puts into the atmosphere by fossil fuel burning could screen out so much sunlight that the average temperature could drop by 6 degrees. If sustained over several years from 5 to 10, he estimated such a temperature decrease could sufficiently trigger an ice age. And we are living in an ice age right now. It got so dang hot in the Bay Area this week. Wow. But yeah, so that goes on and on. And some of what I'm saying sounds like I'm being anti-environmental friendly, that I'm sounding like Trump here, but there is a fine line that people get a little too, there's people that get sidetracked by fear on both sides. And I just want you to have a clear head is all I'm saying. And I did a Google search to find this website and the people at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. So if you want more answers or just food for thought anyway, you should check it out over there. And speaking though, and I'm not all for saying that we can't do anything to help the environment. We need to. I love walking through a forest and listening to the birds chirp and seeing the trees growing healthy and the animals healthy. I'd like a healthy planet. So when things like this, like there was a fire at a chemical plant in Conyers, Georgia, it caused residents to evacuate or shelter in place in an effort to avoid exposure to a chemical plume. That from Forbes. Yeah, it was not a good thing that happened, but to put it lightly, residents in northern Rockdale County, Georgia, were being asked to shelter in place or evacuate Though a spokesman for the sheriff's office told the Associated Press she was not sure of the number of people evacuated. And there's if you choose not to evacuate, please do not get out and ride around and just take videos of what's going on, said Conyers Mayor Vince Evans. Either leave or stay, but don't be wandering out in the city. Conyers, Georgia is about 32 miles east of Atlanta, and BioLab is described as a manufacturer of pool and spa treatment products, which seems to be where this came from. So, yikes. Outside of Café Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, look who's here. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing? I brought my horse. That's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player. Tell you what. What?
You know, it made you sad to hear about that and about chemicals in the atmosphere. But you sure do love you some Chipotle burritos, Mike.
No, I was saying that, no, they do taste good sometimes. I just don't want to get the norovirus or the, what's it called, the E. coli or any of that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. Now, I'm telling you, though, that you like a tasty burrito.
I won't disagree with you on that. I just don't want chemicals in my air or in my burrito, is all I'm saying. Are you a doomsayer?
What? I say no to Doom. Unless it's Dr. Doom, that's going to be cool. With Robert Downey Jr.
That should be interesting.
Yeah.
Someone should pour us a root beer.
Hello, Mike. I make delicious root beer. Have some right now. Oh, boy.
You know, I'm afraid to ask what's in this. Oh, that's terrible. What's in it?
I put some Chipotle soda in that. Oh, boy.
Hopefully Chipotle soda doesn't have... Is that... So this is a root beer from a Chipotle, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right. Drink right now. I'll cut you. Oh, boy.
There's so much stuff threatening my life here at Café Anyway. The chemicals from a pool chemical maker for spas and pools. Lovely chlorine and all of that. Oh, yeah, Sarah Huckabee was going to tell us something right now.
So my kids keep me humble.
That's right. Kids keep you humble.
Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble.
What the... That's not cool. She does have kids, so she's a stepmom. You saying stepmoms aren't moms? I didn't get that one. How about this,
And
though?
look, my high school students know this, and my players knew this. You play hard, the other team plays hard, and after the game, if you lose, you'll walk across and shake hands and congratulate the other team.
That's right. You go and you shake their hand.
In politics, you take it another step forward. You walk across and congratulate the winner, and then you pledge to do all you can to help them succeed. Because that's good for America.
That's good. You concede when you've lost. So we'll see. We'll see whoever loses in this election actually concedes. That would be interesting. Okay, what do you think about all that? Here's the number.
Call Mike at the Café Anyway hotline. Area code 510-228-4640. Will you shut ups? Liberty Nation Freedom Foam for All. I'm not going to eat a Chipotle because it's not American, because I'm William Shut.
Thank you, Willia. No, I'm saying this number, here's the number. I should have been like the count and said, number 4. But instead we'll say, hey, we're at the mainframe and talking to A-frame to find out everything that has to do with Mike's Daily Podcast. To do that, here it is. Thank you for listening.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.